Hi, my name is Brenda Ness, and I am reading my entire book on the internet so that the information can be available for free. Secrets Revealed at the Time of the End is an interpretation of end-time Bible prophecy for today. I have two previous recordings. The first, called Secrets Revealed at the Time of the End cover, in which I explain this picture on the cover of my book, and I also read the back of the book and give you some of my inspiration story. The second video is Secrets Revealed at the Time of the End intro, and in that video I read the introductions to the book so that you know what my book is all about. I also go over the table of contents. So I would recommend you watch those two videos in that order before you watch this one. This video is Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Understanding the Hillel Hebrew Calendar. In order to understand the end-time prophecies that God has given us in His Word, it is necessary to study the Hillel Hebrew calendar in detail. These details are important, and they prove how some of the end-time theories being taught today, like suddenly switching to a special 360-day per year calendar, are not even possible, scripturally or scientifically. Here is an example of what would happen if a true 360-day per year calendar were followed. I am using the Christian calendar, also known as the Gregorian calendar, because it is designated as the universal calendar of the world in ISO standard 8601. What that means is, in order for international airlines to function properly, every country in the world has to follow the same calendar, and they have chosen the Gregorian calendar. So I am using that because most people understand it. And the Christian calendar has only two variations, regular years and leap years. Now I'm going to switch to a bigger blow up here so I can explain this for you. This column is the Gregorian calendar from January 1st, 2000 to January 1st, 2018. It has 365 days a year and 366 days on leap years. Over in this column, I have listed when the Gregorian calendar has a leap year. In the middle column, I have adjusted the Gregorian calendar down to 360 days per year, and so as you can see, I have shortened the calendar appropriately, 5 days a year on regular years and 6 days per year on leap years. What I am demonstrating here is that the world cannot just switch to a 360-day calendar and still function the way God describes it in the Bible. As you can see, it takes only 18 years to be an entire season off. September 30th, 2017, when it's supposed to be January 1st, 2018. So we would lose 3 months by shortening the calendar to 360 days per year from 365 without anything else happening. And I will explain that when we get back to the book here. Even for a shorter period of time, like the 7-year tribulation, the seasons would become more than a full year off. 7 years times 5 1/4 extra days equals 36 3/4 days. God tells us in Genesis 1:14 that He set up the universe to give us signs, seasons, days, and years. A 360-day per year calendar does not follow His description. And here is that verse for you, Genesis 1:14. And God said, "Let there be light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and days and years." Genesis 2:1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. So God says He was finished. The theorists who developed a 360-day per year calendar claim the Bible supports this idea because the following verses state specific amount of time that could hypothetically fit into such a calendar. Revelation 11:3, and I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,203 days clothed in sackcloth. Revelation 12:6, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,203 days. Revelation 12:14, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time, times, and a half a time from the face of the serpent. Revelation 13:5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand unto a time, times, and the dividing of time. Daniel 12:11, and from the time that the daily sacrifices shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Daniel 12:12, blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 days, the 1335-day prophecy. Now, using this theory, they can make 1,260 days equal 42 months and also equal 3.5 years. Essentially, the theory says, though, that God did not know the end in the beginning, so he will have to change what he set up during creation so that these particular amounts of time can equal each other. I propose that there is a much better and more biblical explanation. These amounts of time in the various prophecies do not have to be equal to each other. In fact, I will show you an example of a tribulation period that lasts exactly 7 years, in which these prophecies can start and end on significant biblical dates, on calendars being used by the world today. Trust God and trust that he did know the end in the beginning. He put our universe in place in the beginning to help us understand, not to confuse us. There is a civil and a religious version of the Hebrew calendar. They are laid out exactly the same way. The only difference is when they begin counting the months. The civil year begins with 1 Tishri, and the religious year begins with 1 Nisan. However, they both celebrate their New Year's Day on 1 Tishri. This means that on the religious calendar, their New Year's Day is the first day of the 7th month. That is the only difference, and I'm going to scroll ahead here to page 14 to show you that. This table compares the Hebrew civil calendar and civil month number with the Hebrew religious calendar and the religious calendar month number. Adar 2, a month that is added occasionally to keep the seasons aligned, is not shown in this calendar to simplify the grid for you. I will be showing that in the graph below. So what I wanted to show you here is on the civil calendar, Tishri, the first month, and on the religious calendar, Tishri, the 7th month. But as you can see, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th months are Heshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shevat, and Adar. Over here, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, this calendar is just 6 months off. So we have Tishri, Heshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shevat, and Adar exactly the same. So the only difference is the religious calendar calls the Nisan in the spring the first month, and the civil calendar calls Tishri in the fall the first month. However, they both celebrate the New Year's Day on Tishri 1. So this would be their first month, and it would be the 7th month here, like I was explaining to you. Now let's go back to where we were and continue reading. Knowing the difference between the two calendars is not of great importance. I only bring it up because you might run into both of them when you start verifying this information. It could cause you a bit of confusion if you did not know there were two versions. Nothing else changes between the two calendars. The Hebrew calendar has two cycles, a short cycle which lasts 19 years, and in this cycle the months are on a constant repeating pattern, but the number of days per year vary. So I'm going to show that quickly to you before we move on to the second one. And this is a number of days in each Hebrew calendar, 5758 to 5883. I laid them out in 4 19-year cycles because that is the pattern. Over in this column you can see is numbers 1 through 19. And then what I've done is did one set of 19 years, two set of 19 years, the third set of 19 years, and a fourth set of 19 years. Now the reason I did this is I want to show you that the pattern does repeat for the number of months per year. See the blue highlighted areas here? These are the years in the cycle that always have 13 months, and the white are the ones that always have 12 months. But I was explaining that there are two cycles. There is a longer cycle of 247 years. Why that is if you just follow one of these columns across here, let's pick year 6, and we go across. This is the Gregorian calendar, 2002 to 3, and this is the Hebrew calendar year, 5763. They number that calendar from when they think creation was. So we are now down here. We are in year 5774 as I am recording this. We will shortly be in year 5775. So let's just do year 17 then, because that's where we are now. Okay, this year is a 13-month year. Now if you follow that across, the 17th year in every 19-year cycle is a 13-month year, as you can see here. But now let's go back and look at the next column, which is the number of days per year. As you can see, this year they have 385 days, and the next cycle they'll have 383 days. The next 19-year cycle after that will have 383 days, and then 383 in the cycle after that. But if you jump up to 14 here, the 13s are the same again, and as you can see, 385 days, 383 days, 384, 383. So these number of days per year vary, and what that means is that the calendar does not repeat exactly every 19 years. So what I will be showing you in a couple chapters here is that the 7-year template I use does not repeat every 19 years. That's what one would think when they would first hear that there is a 19-year cycle. So I'm going to show you how that does not happen. The second pattern is a much longer cycle, which lasts 247 years, exactly 13 19-year cycles. In this cycle, there is a repeating pattern of a number of days per year. Okay, this is almost 247-year cycles on the Hebrew calendar from 5359 to 6042. Now the reason I say almost is because I couldn't print this any smaller, so I squeezed as much of 3 cycles on here as I could get. Enough to prove my point though. So what I am saying is if you follow these cycles through, you will see a repeating pattern of number of days per year. And it is exactly 13 19-year cycles, so they do sync up. Now if you look at this first cycle, let's look at the last 4 years in the first cycle, and you see 353, 354, 385, 355. So now let's go down a little ways here, and I will show you that that is the same in this cycle. 353, 354, 385, 355. And we have two starting cycles here also. 353, 84, 55, 83. Come down here, 53, 84, 55, 83. So, as you can see what I'm talking about, every 247 years it will repeat this cycle. Okay, now let's go back up to where we were. Looking at the graph which shows the four 19-year cycles, I showed you I picked a year on the left, followed it across, and showed you that the number of years in the cycle are the same and the number of days per cycle or not. So, the reason I'm going into some depth in explaining the Hillel Hebrew calendar, in which I'm going to refer to as the Hebrew calendar throughout the rest of the book, the Bible tells us to celebrate certain festivals according to God's prescribed calendar. These festivals are extremely important in understanding the 14 prophetic numeric verses. Take a look at pages 19 and 21, in which I have highlighted the 7-year period that offers the possibility of a 7-year tribulation, because the biblical holidays line up with the time frame stated in the 14 verses. It is the only pattern I could find in the 152 years that I show you, using specific criteria of each holy day, which I believe fit the event described in the prophetic verse. So let's quick roll down to that now so I can show that to you. Here we are. Okay. This is a grid of four 19-year cycles on the Hebrew calendar, 5758 through 5833. The same four 19-year patterns I showed you earlier in vertical. So what I've highlighted here in the yellow here is possible. The 7-year tribulation has to start on a 13-month year, and I will explain why that is later, but I'm just going to explain these highlights to you. Now, all of my graphs are blank on the back side so that you can pull them out and use them whenever you need them throughout the book. So this one here that's green is the only 7-year pattern I found that all the holy days line up to the 14 prophetic numeric verses that I use. You will understand this much better in a later chapter, but I want you to get the feel for it. There's the first four, and I said I had 152 years. Here are the other four 19-year cycles. So you can look at them. If you're not going to buy the book and just watch the free videos, you can just pause this and take as long as you need to look at the different graphs that I've shown you. So let's get back to page 13. Okay. For your information, the Bible states that we are to observe the actual sliver of the new moon to begin a new month. So back in the day in the Genesis book in the Bible, they looked at the sky and waited for the sliver of the new moon, and then they started counting the next month. Hillel too, the one who developed the Hebrew calendar, developed a mathematical formula so that the calendar could be calculated far into the future, so you wouldn't have to wait to see that sliver to know what was going to happen several years down the road. Even though it does not always line up perfectly, it does follow along quite closely for being 1600 years old. And I'm going to quick go forward again to the chart on page 23 so I can show you that, and so you'll know what I'm talking about when you get to this chart in the video. And what I did is I went to the NASA website and I recorded the slivers of the new moon, and then I went to the Hillel Hebcal conversion page, and I went and saw when Hillel's calculations put the first day of the Hebrew month. Now this is Hillel month day 1 in this column of year 5782, and these are the list of the months. And I started in 2021, which is the first year that I show on that 7 year that was highlighted in green. And now this column here tells you how close Hillel's calendar is to when NASA says the sliver of the moon shows up in the sky. And this is the Gregorian calendar day that it shows up on. And as you can see here, it's a day later, day later, day later, but it's still right on several days. And you hop over here, see all these right-ons means that Hillel's calculation was right on when the actual new sliver of the moon is. And I have listed those same 7 years here, all the way to the bottom, through 2028. And again, you can see here it slips a little bit earlier, and then it gets back to right on down here and a little bit earlier. So as you can see, Hillel is pretty accurate for being a 1600-year-old calendar. And later I will show you the little bit that the Gregorian calendar is off. It's actually off a little more than the Hebrew calendar, and I will explain all that to you. Okay, now we should be able to finish out the chapter. The Hebrew calendar is a lunar solar calendar. The months are based on the moon, like I just explained. Then every couple of years an extra month is added to keep the seasons aligned with the sun. And that is because a lunar cycle is 29.5 days long and a solar cycle is 365.25 days. So if you take 29.5 times 12, it comes up to 354. So with the Gregorian calendar being 365 or 66 days a year, you can see that everything would become way out of line if they didn't play catch up every couple of years. Because the 354, the difference between that and 365 or 66 is 11 to 12 days. Okay, so the Hebrew calendar is a lunar solar calendar, and its unique system, it takes 247 years for it to repeat its pattern perfectly. At present time, many of the biblically prescribed holy festivals are only celebrated in Israel. Israel itself is a newly reborn nation, only 66 years old. Because there has not been an Israel or a temple for 2,000 years, most of the world is not even aware of the festivals that I will be teaching you about. They are biblical in the first 5 books of the Bible. They were replaced or even done away with by various other holidays when the Roman Empire ruled the world for several centuries. In the near future, when the temple is rebuilt in Jerusalem, the festivals will become well known around the world once again. In Chapter 3, I will explain the festivals in detail. I found the tables I display on the next page on the internet. I had to build all the other graphs that I've been showing you on pages 15 to 23 because I could not find anything like them online. I left the backs of all the graphs blank so you can take them out for easy reference. I used information to build those graphs from these 2 websites, hebcal.com/converter and jewishgen.org/jos/josdates.htm. Okay, I'm going to quickly scroll through the tables that I've already shown you, and I'm going to stop right here on this one because I never explained this one to you yet. This table shows 3 types of Hebrew years that can occur: the deficient year, the regular year, the complete year. And each of those years can have 2 different lengths of time depending on if a leap month has been added or not. The civil Hebrew calendar, first month is Tishri, is used, but it can also apply to the religious calendar because the only difference between the 2, if you'll recall, is that they start counting the months at a different month. The one calendar starts 6 months before the other. So if you wanted to use the other calendar, you would just start numbering down here and ignore these months that are already here. So this Nisan would be 1 on the religious calendar, and Iyar 2, Sivan 3, Tammuz 4, Av 5, and Elul 6. And then Tishri would be 7. Heshvan 8, Kislev 9, Tevet 10, and Shevat 11. And then as you'll see here, there's 2 months called Adar. When they insert the 13th month, it is called Adar also. The original Adar in the 12-month year is moved to Adar 2. Now the reason for that, the added month Adar 1 is inserted ahead of it so that the Purim celebration still occurs in the month immediately preceding Nisan. So the month without any holidays is ahead of the original Adar. Now, if you want to take a look at these columns here, this tells you when they adjust from the 353 days a year, 354 days, 355 days in a non-leap year. And then there's 383, 384, 385 when they add the leap month. These columns tell you which months they adjust to get the new count. So if you just want to take some time to pause this and take a look at that. Okay, let's see. The Hebrew leap year can add as much as 32 days to a year, whereas the Gregorian calendar just adds 1 day every 4 years. Okay, let's quickly scroll through the rest of these. I turned that graph so you could read it. And then here's the graph of the 247 year cycles. And this one is the 8 19-year cycles, 4 on this page, 4 on the next page, with the bright green 7 years as the one that I found that works perfectly. And I will be covering that later in the book. Down here, this was that graph that talked about the new sliver of the moon from Hillel's calendar compared to NASA's timing. And the next chapter is chapter 2. Now we're going to switch over to my website, and so I can show you how to order a book if you want one. As I said, I want the information to be available for free. So if you can't afford a book or don't want to buy one and you just want to watch it for free on YouTube, just keep looking for more videos as I add them. How to order the book: send a money order or cashier's check, no personal checks, to me at Brenda Ness, P.O. Box 31205, El Paso, Texas 79931. Now the printed copy, if you order it from to be delivered in the United States, is $25. That's $21.49 for the book, $3.51 for shipping and handling. It is a 228-page book with 20 or more colored pages. So that was what cost all the money. But the graphs would be really boring if I left them all black and white. Anyway, if you want a PDF file, send $1.47 to the same address. And if you don't want to go pick up a money order or a cashier's check, you can just send 2 $1 bills in an envelope. I do not recommend sending 47 cents. It'll make your letter way too much. And if you leave those coins loose, they'll slide around and knock holes in the sides of the envelope, and the money will fall out. And then when it gets to me, there won't be enough in there. So, but that's only if you don't want to run and pick up a cashier's check. You must include an address label or your name and complete address printed on an index card or something about that same size. I plan on using that as your address label, and I'm going to tape that right to the package that I send your book in. So please write it the way it needs to be written for the Postal Service to send it to you. For the PDF file, all I need is your email address. That's what you write on the paper. And write it neatly without any spaces, just like it would be typed into the computer. Okay, Or, like I said, you can watch the YouTube for free if you click on the icon below on this website, or obviously if you're watching this video, you're already watching one of my YouTube videos. No refunds, please. I process these orders by myself, and I'm working on the next book, so I don't have time to be processing refunds. When I'm allowing you to watch this for free on YouTube, I expect you to watch it long enough to know that whether you want a copy or not. All right? Okay, now I'm going to give you the, if you got to YouTube before the website, then I want to give you my website address so you can go to that also. My site is located at estherofisrael.wix.com/secrets revealed. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.